Welcome to Charlie's Chatroom, your self-improvement, do-it-yourself go-to for important life hacks that put you in the best position to unwrap the best version of you. I'm Charlie, and we're ready to enlighten and empower. So pull up a seat and turn up the volume. Today we have a special guest, a good friend of mine, Nomad, is here with us, and we're talking about redefining strength. How are you today, brother?
I'm good, sis. How are you doing?
Doing well. I'm glad you decided to stop by and share with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to just jump right into it. What does strength mean to you?
Strength, to me, has come to mean being able to, this is going to be in the broadest sense, being able to have the confidence to learn. Being able to accept that you need information and having the self-reflection to do that. Yeah, I'd say that.
I like that. I like your intellectual spin on it because it's twofold. Because you could be talking about physical strength, and or we're talking about strength of character, personality, and things like that. So, of course, for the episode, we're talking about the mental strength within our human characters and whatnot. Awesome answer. Okay. How have your ideas of strength changed over time? Now, that could be from childhood to adulthood. That could be early 20s to your 30s. It could be the last year. You know? How has your idea of strength changed over time?
My ideas of strength have changed. Well, I first had to understand what my first idea of strength even was. When we met back in 2015, my original, ideas of strength, I didn't even know what they really were. I was just trying to be tough. Which is hard for me anyways, because I'm real jovial, goofy kind of guy. So, it didn't really enter my mindset all that often. Even as a child growing up, it wasn't really
that you're being strong
a focus.
Or showing strength.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge focus for me. And there's probably a lot of reasons why, but then it started becoming important, especially once certain life events happened and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I needed to be there.
Show up. Yeah, exactly.
Then I started to, and then even before you even talk about other people, when you start to actually learn how to introspect and look at yourself, that takes effort.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then I had to actually, actually quite a bit when me and bro would go to the gym and everything like that was I think the biggest teacher.
Yeah, tapping into the physical strength to show you something inside of yourself.
Right. And it's all too often when we're hitting the gym that something inside will come out.
Yeah.
And I have to, first of all, I'm in the gym and there's other people there. So I can't just,
wow out.
Much as I may want to.
Yeah.
But I tried. But there is a communication that I kind of learned with that part of myself.
Yeah, and I'll testify to that the physical aspects can teach us so much about what we think and how we're feeling. In our emotions, it manifests in the body and it comes out through physical activities. And I learned this in Tai Chi training over the years, and now being an instructor, and the different postures, how people are holding their shoulders, if you're able to relax or not, can you sink back, how you're holding your head, all of that just says so much about what is mentally happening inside of you. I can see tension, I can see stress, anxiety, I can see it all just manifesting in the body. And then myself trying to work that out, how I even started going to Tai Chi in the first place.
Right.
You know, trying to work with blood pressure and things, but just being in an emotional whirlwind, having a huge life shift, and then going to, you know, seek a activity to help me calm down, but to work that out. And Tai Chi is all about inner working via the outer, and Qigong and all of those things.
Right.
Yeah, so awesome. And you said something earlier, but I was going to say life. How have your ideas changed over time pertaining to strength? Life calls upon different things, and you said at the time when you had to show up, because now these circumstances are here. So, of course, it's not going to look like 10-year-old me from 21-year-old me, you know,
right.
Requiring completely different things.
Right. Circumstances sometimes force you to mature faster than you were prepared to. You know, maturity takes strength.
Yeah.
You know, allowing, you know, the process.
Yeah. The
process of growth. And then, you know, one of my biggest things growing up and then well into my adulthood was beating myself up over everything.
Okay.
Right? So giving myself even the strength to forgive myself.
Oh, that's a huge strength.
Right. That took a really long time for me to be able to make a mess. Even if it wasn't really a mess, even if I perceived it as one, being okay with it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and there's a book you can go into, like, just a lot of, like, you know, why was this considered a mess, life lessons, like people from your past, all this kind of stuff. Like, wait, that's not really a mess. That's just what people that was in my life were teaching me that's not a good thing to be like.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying, if I could summarize, is at one point in your life, being able to take a lot meant having strength.
Right.
And then at another point in your life, being able to forgive yourself now means having great strength.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, do you think traditional notions of masculinity are outdated or limiting? And that pertains to strength. And I'm going to stay on topic of strength. Do you think the traditional notions of masculinity are outdated or limiting?
I do. I think they're outdated because they're limiting, and I think they're limiting because they're not deep.
Okay, very shallow.
There's no introspection. Strength in your typical, you know, go talk to anybody on the street. Strength is going to be how much you can lift.
Right.
Right.
Physical prowess.
You know, maybe 1 out of every 5 people, I don't know, something like that, would probably bring in the intellectual strength, the character strength into the conversation.
Well, let me interrupt. Before you answer this question more, let's go ahead and define masculinity. What is masculinity in your definition? And then when you get done, I'm going to share a couple of responses. I did some research, asked around what masculinity meant to a couple of other people, and we'll compare those definitions.
Okay. Masculinity. I actually wrote something. And I can't remember how I got to it, but I'm going to try to pull it out.
Yeah, go for it.
Because strength and masculinity I was noticing was actually becoming pretty interchangeable in my notes. Like during this whole thought process of trying to figure out what masculinity actually is and its role. Just being a good father and or a good leader keeps coming into play.
Okay.
And when I'm thinking about if I was going to come up with a metaphor, right? The metaphor that came to me was a river. And not a calm one, but like rapids.
Yeah.
Okay. Because rapids like carry boulders, like rocks and sediment and boulders just get pushed down the river.
Water can be very powerful.
Water's extremely powerful. However, and also, it listens.
Okay.
Because it turns. The land informs it where to go. There's a conversation between the water and the land. Because the land also actually gives way. So there's like an actual conversation happening between land and water. And I think masculinity is White Rapids River, where it's carrying boulders, it's lifting heavy objects, but it's also listening to what's going on around it.
I like that. That's powerful. Okay.
That's what I think masculinity is.
Okay. Awesome. So, and I feel, I don't know if you guys were like on one accord, and these are like just random people that I asked. So you all don't know each other, but it's interesting this mindset that you all are sharing. And I'll just share the first one. Definition of masculinity is the ability to establish and maintain, to be able to cause order and structure where there is chaos. That was one definition. So what I got from that one was yin and yang. Mm-hmm. So yin being the water chaos, and yang being the fire, which would be transformation. Mm-hmm. Another person said, a man that is balanced in protecting, providing, and knowing when to submit. And one last answer that I had, the balance of the masculine and feminine qualities, the energy I put out, my masculinity is my energy, my confidence, my personality, my depth, my morals, etc. Mm-hmm. I thought these were quite interesting answers. I was not expecting this, but they are, and this is verbatim. This is what they wrote. They all said two of them said balance that I'm sharing. And then the other one said the ability to establish and maintain, cause order where there is chaos, but we're still talking about balance.
Right.
So this powerful water metaphor you're giving, and then the still listening to the land or making way to the land and letting it guide at times.
Right.
Awesome. Okay. So I would not compare that to the traditional notions of masculinity. No. It's what I say. I run the show.
Right.
And what I will say, my grandfather, I feel like he was a very masculine man. I'll use my grandparents as an example because they were extremely traditional in the sense, they got married in the 40s. They were born in the 20s. Right. That they were a much older. My father was a much younger sibling.
Right.
So I got to see that old down south. My grandmother did not drive. My father said she had part-time jobs when they were young, but she was always at home. She got them up for school, and she was there when they got home. My grandfather worked, breadwinner, all that good stuff. 7 kids. Just that traditional down-home house. My grandmother cooked. But my grandfather, in all of his masculinity, he still cooked. He still washed dishes. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that extreme.
Right.
The man doesn't cook, doesn't clean. He only just makes money. And you better have my food ready. Not that sense.
Right.
But I still feel like it was the traditional notion of masculinity. And I was a very young grandchild at the time, and I didn't know everything. I couldn't see everything. So by the time I'm 10, 12 years old, they're in their 70s and things, and you don't completely share your life with the little grandkids like that. So I feel as a child I missed some things I didn't understand.
For sure.
But they were pretty traditional, and he took very, very good care of my grandmother. And I think maybe they were like a very rare case.
Right.
Of people.
Yeah, you hear those sparingly.
Yeah, I think they were like a very, very rare case. All right, well, let's just shift. Next question. What does it mean to be vulnerable, and how does that relate to strength? And you touched on it a little bit when we were speaking earlier, but specifically, how does that relate to strength? Vulnerability.
Vulnerability, and how does it relate to strength? I got into that concept when I was learning how to not beat myself up.
Yes, and this is what I was talking about. You mentioned earlier.
Right. So the progression of the person who beats themselves up over everything is a terrified person, but also simultaneously, like, if you're beating yourself up, it's because you have this perceived judgment of yourself.
Okay.
Right? So there's this landscape that you're supposed to judge yourself against. And that comes from your past, right? You know, society, like whatever,
family, culture,
all the things that influenced you directly growing up that shaped you, right? And that's your framework that you're judging yourself against. And for whatever reason, it was really intense that I forced myself to feel guilt for whatever levels that I wasn't able to measure up to that.
Okay.
And when I was learning how to forgive myself and quote unquote make the mess, right? Being messy. That was figuring out God's grace. That was figuring out grace for myself.
Yeah.
You know, because the first interaction with grace is a fearful one, or at least it was for me. Mm-hmm. It was, I'm really supposed to just let go of this and lose control.
Oh, losing control, that's a tough one.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And in vulnerability, there is a giving up.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's learning how to surrender.
Yes, there we go. Surrendering.
Right. And I didn't have any concept of that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Big Pops is like, well, you're going to learn. So it didn't come till later that the amount of strength that took to surrender.
Okay.
It's trusting God. It's trusting that everything's going to be okay. Because it's actually a false strength to think that you even have any control over anything.
There's a lot of things that are not in our control, and we have to navigate, you know. We control our responses mostly, and we can navigate through things, but a lot of stuff is predetermined. You don't own the company, you don't run the city, you don't print the money.
There's a big balancing act with all that, learning how to do it and everything.
Yeah. For
sure. And then, you know, like, and you have to get more sophisticated as you continue to introspect in that realm. Mm-hmm. You know. But yeah, learning how to, like, it actually felt like an act. Like I had to put effort into forgiving myself, because it would creep up like, I messed up again. You know, and I still do that to this day. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let it go.
Yeah.
Just, it's not going to do anything but eat up at me.
Yeah, so
if I keep holding on to it.
Absolutely. Vulnerability and as it relates to strength, I think being vulnerable is one of the greatest strengths of all time, because opening up your heart and trust can be one of the scariest things. Mm-hmm. Being open, and when you're vulnerable and trusting in someone or in the divine creator or whatever it is, you're opening yourself to judgment. Mm-hmm. You're opening yourself to share your feelings, your thoughts, your secrets. Mm-hmm. And that is huge, letting people in to see you for who you truly are and being okay with that. Mm-hmm. And you keep going back to this struggle with giving yourself forgiveness. It's acceptance. It's self-love and self-acceptance, I think, is really hard for a lot of people. And if we really look at it, most of us do not accept ourselves.
No. And there's a whole lot you can say about that, societally, and just, where that comes from, just.
Yeah. And not nurtured. A lot of that comes from, I will say, our child rearing, not being properly instructed on how to love ourselves, and then growing up somewhere where it's not a safe space.
Right.
And not the extreme of being abused or manipulated, mistreated, or anything like that, but it's not a safe place to say I'm scared. It's not a safe space to share your feelings or to ask questions because, you're being told to go in the living room, or the adults are over here, you have to be over here, or the parents are working, and they're not physically available because their schedule is demanding, or maybe they're neglectful and all these things, so you've never had an outlet to grow yourself and to learn to be vulnerable, or siblings are being nasty to you and cousins and all this stuff, and so you learn to just clam up and keep everything to yourself. And I think that just happens to us over and over and over again.
Right.
And it's just not a part of the American culture, I will say. That children have a safe space to develop vulnerabilities. And then we can get into all of the nonsense and all the vile things that happen in society where the children are being broken and whatnot.
Right.
How have you seen vulnerability and empathy make you stronger?
Well, that was actually what I was thinking of when you were thinking of the kids. Because when you're being taught as a kid that nothing you're doing is okay, and you're judged, and you don't have that space to be vulnerable, and everything like that, that comes from people who didn't have that themselves. And there's the sins of the father thing, where generation upon generation of people who didn't know how to treat each other is just coming down the line.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're talking specifically about the overcorrection. And I've just been seeing this a lot. And I was out Saturday and I watched one of my little cousins tell the baby, no. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't say that to her. And, being in education and working with youth at different points, the overcorrection that happens, and children need the structure.
Right.
But not allowing them to make the mistakes and be okay with that, then they develop a sense of, oh, I'm doing it wrong. Nothing I do is right because I'm always being corrected.
Right. I struggle with that with my nephew. He's all over the place.
Yeah.
Of course they say he's got ADHD, but I know it comes from anxiety and that
a
very
lot of
thing.
underlying things, that need to be addressed.
Right. So I've been trying to sit with him and be like, okay, look, let's think through how you're feeling here. There was one point where he was like, there's this thing he does where he'll tense everything up and he has to focus to breathe. And it gets real intense breathing. And I told him, I was like, look, how you're feeling actually makes sense. And it instantly calmed his breathing
it was
down.
Okay to be like that. So now going into the empathy.
Right.
And making us stronger.
Right.
But even in, like you said, going back to the character traits, it's helping us be a better adult to the young people around us so they don't grow up with those issues being reproduced, the father's curse being reproduced.
Right.
I like that. And it's so important to have that self-awareness that other people may be struggling with other things, no matter the labels that have been put upon, and we have to label it something.
Right. And I think the kids actually communicate that too, because when they say, oh, it was different in the olden times, and my nephew said that, And I was like, no, buddy, it wasn't really. We're all dealing with the same thing. It's your turn now, But we're gonna get through this. Like, I understand what you're feeling. Like, I've been there before, and this belief that they weren't actually experiencing what we experienced, and we don't understand them, I think is what they're actually saying when they say that. It was different in the olden times.
The olden times.
Right. You see, here a 9-year-old.
Like, how old are we?
I know, a little 9-year-old. Man, don't say that. The old 85 was not the olden times.
That is hilarious. Yeah, and then it makes sense because, okay, let's go back to the father's curse or issues being passed down. Oh, in my day, I had to walk 10 miles to school, and I'm exaggerating, but it is different. And I had to understand that because I also struggled with my nieces and nephews and even younger people that I deal with or have encountered, in being like, I'm like, Charlie, you are old-fashioned, my gosh. But accepting that they are having a different experience, and I can keep my structure. I'm going to keep my morals and my beliefs. I'm not going to waver in that.
Right.
You have to be respectful. And those values that keep us righteous, I'm not going to waver from those. Right. However, these kids are having their own experience.
For sure.
And it's a whole new era. They've got the same smartphone that I've got with my full-time job, and they don't got a penny, but they've got the same devices as me, and more in virtual reality. They're exposed to more things. So they are impacted very differently than how I was impacted. Right. Their media is completely different.
That's true. The
hyper everything in society and social media. So I do have to respect that, and it changes how they portray the world and how they express themselves. It's going to definitely be differently because us growing up in the 90s was just a whole different experience. Right.
They definitely do have all the technology and everything like that. I mean, there was a pretty good similarity what he was experiencing. I mean, but yes, they've got the YouTube and the phones and everything like that, and all of these different videos, and it's constant, relentless. Yeah. Especially like, all this rampant ADHD diagnoses just from what they call TikTok brain, and all
everything
this.
Quick, fast.
It's like I can't watch anything that's longer than 20 seconds, Yes. And this whole being able to watch a long, quote unquote, long form podcast or something like that is difficult for most people.
Their neurotransmitters have been trained to.
All that's.
Oh my gosh, that is such a scary thought.
Right. But I mean, I still was able to relate with him too in that one circumstance, especially because what happened was he was getting made fun of on the bus with these kids, and then they wouldn't stop. They were poking his seat and all this kind of stuff, and he got off the bus, and what was different was that he went and drop kicked the kid in the stomach.
Oh yeah! Hey, he's exercising that strength, didn't he?
He got it.
Oh man!
He did it.
Stand up for yourself.
And he did it right in front of the teacher.
Oh man!
I was like, oh buddy. He's like, and they didn't even get in trouble. They started it and all this, and he's going off.
Yeah,
and I was like,
bullying is tough.
I was like, buddy, I legitimately feel for you. Yeah. And it's that thing. Like, it's not the person who started it; it's the one who retaliated. It gets in trouble. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that's always the case, but it is. I'm like, next time, bud, just look at who's around you. If you're gonna just make
sure nobody's looking
at least look at who's around you.
Oh, yeah, you gotta go tell somebody.
Yep.
I understand wanting to exercise that physical strength, so you're not taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. And
which is true, especially for a little boy.
Yeah, that'd be hard. People poking my seat, and that's not the first day they've done it. Mm-mm. And so then you need to go tell the bus driver, but it's hard to want to tell. Mm-hmm. If you don't feel people are going to listen.
Right.
Okay. So how can we encourage men to be more open about their emotions and needs. I think your nephew is the perfect example. Before drop kicking somebody in their chest, how can we encourage the people to be open about their needs and emotions?
Well, first it needs to be communicated that emotions are okay.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Ding, 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 ding. It is okay to have emotions.
This whole trope of men aren't allowed to cry and all this kind of stuff. Like, I understand where that comes from, because men are supposed to be men, women are supposed to be women, you know, so they don't have, like, it's this dividing line, like, that's what a woman is the one who cries is the woman. That's if there's like zero nuance there. Like, if I'm a grown man and then someone who I loved has now passed away, yes, I'm shedding a few tears. Yes. Right? And then am I going to shed those tears in front of somebody, or am I going to do it in privacy? You know, so this whole, you can't, if you're going to do it, you can't do it in front of people. So it bred into us that emotions are not something that we should be expressing at all.
At all.
Right? So being okay with it. You need to be, it is okay that you feel whatever you're feeling.
Yes.
You know, and that's the first thing that needs to be communicated, and that being able to trust that.
Yes. And
then being able to trust that. Like, this person right here is telling me it's okay that I express whatever I'm feeling.
Oh my goodness, but where are you going to get that first notion that it is okay, and who is going to tell you that? And it starts, like I said, that safe space growing up, when you're first learning about yourself as a person. And it's interesting, we're starting here because I heard this word for the first time a couple months ago. Alexithymia. And a gentleman was talking about male psychology, and I'm like, what is that? And so, getting into this topic, I went back to look at it. I'm like, oh my goodness, here we are. So, men often live in emotional isolation. And I'll just read this. Narratives from a patriarchal system perpetuate a script that directs men away from knowing, feeling, and expressing their emotions. Under this rigid framework, normalized male alexithymia is the rule. And to emote is considered unmasculine and puts men in a crisis of identity and the fear of exclusion from other. It says from other men, but I would just say from people, because I think in relationships with females as well.
Oh, yeah. There's something I can say to that. There was a TED Talk clip that I saw where a woman was talking about how she counsels women and everything like that. She had a book signing or something to that effect, and a man came up to her and asked her why she doesn't talk about men. And she said, well, I don't study men. He said, well, that's convenient. And she went, oh.
That's funny.
And she said, she was like, what I came to find out was what he said to me was, the toughest people in my life are my wife and my daughter. They'd rather me die on my white horse than for me to fall off of it.
Okay. Wow. Whoa. That's deep.
He's like, the people who are the toughest on me in my life are them.
Whoa. That's intense, man.
So it's not just, men holding it up. It's women too. So we're expected on both sides, on both fronts, to not let any weakness show. And emotions are equated with weakness, 100%.
Okay. And this is kind of what the psychologist, the brother, was saying with the alexithymia. It's a psychological construct that describes difficulty identifying, expressing, and regulating emotions. Individuals with alexithymia may have trouble understanding their own feelings, recognizing emotional cues in others, and communicating their emotional experiences effectively. And the thing that he said is what happened to push the men into this state of being. Because for many years he was told he could not cry. It's not manly to show emotion. Stay on that white horse, and all the build up to this space of now having this quote unquote disorder, so to speak, or
Right.
just this callousness
Right.
in our hearts, or in the man's heart, of not being able to show the emotions because it's
Right.
quote unquote unmasculine.
Right.
Oh, it's so sad. That is
Right.
so sad.
Right. Well, I mean, just now while we were talking about that, the verse of Jesus wept. It's like when I grew up, I was like the shortest verse in the Bible is 2 words. Right. Jesus wept. You know, and then the talking about when he was out by himself praying about going on the cross, and he wept, and
he's having these emotions
until blood squirted from his forehead and all this, going on in the verses and everything. So intense emotions.
Yeah, and I will say in the first one when Jesus wept, he's upset.
He's very
because they're dull and they're not recognizing. So I think we don't allow a place for frustration.
Right.
Like, being angry is bad. Being frustrated is not constructive.
Right.
However, it is an emotion, and there is a place for it as long as it's not being destructive and tearing people down. Frustration, the end of that has seen much productivity. You can get frustrated with a lot of stuff and clean up the house. You can get frustrated and go buy your new car and get your situation. You can get frustrated with your living situation and upgrade.
Right.
Get frustrated at work
Right.
and get a new job, get a promotion, change your situation. So there can be a positive outcome from frustration.
Right.
And he's weeping because the people just ain't getting it. So, he's upset.
Right.
Not, oh my God, I can't believe this. And, just falling on down. No, he's pissed.
Right. And I think there's like a lack of ability to understand that you can feel that and then develop an intention to correct.
For a constructive outcome.
Right. But the emotion is the thing that's communicating to you that something is off. But we don't understand emotion in that context.
Yeah.
Emotion is communicating to us that something is off. In the military, they teach something that needs to have some nuance to it. Is pain just lets you know that you're not dead. Oh
man!
Right.
Still there? All right.
Cool. I'm not dead, but now what do? I don't. My right leg is gone, or whatever. But pain communicates to you, at least, like, there's this problem here. Now I need to find a solution for it, right? So what is the cause of this and everything like that, and then you can develop an intention from there. And I think that the apprehension to feel one of the problems of people's apprehension to be okay with feeling their emotions is they don't, because I think that's what it is. They haven't developed that ability or the recognition that they can, and that's their opportunity to figure out what the problem is and then go solve it. Because people get stuck in wallowing in self-pity and all this kind of stuff where they don't develop the intent to fix it. It's just, this happened, it was terrible, I didn't enjoy it, it sucked, and then you wallow in that, like, I can't believe this happened to me.
So, I'm going to jump. What does it mean to live an authentic life? And how does that contribute to your strength? Because I feel like you're going into authenticity.
Right. Yeah. Going into all those things is, like, that was me understanding, like, all that came from me understanding how my emotions were working. Learning how to read my emotion and figure out an intent, understanding that other people aren't doing that, right? And then, what am I going to do? And then you have to figure out, like, what do I actually, okay, why do I think this is wrong? Is it actually wrong? If it is, what can I do about it? And if going into, like, the authentic self, you have to have some sort of, and I think this is a constant battle, is trying to figure out who you actually are, because I think you know we're doing that continually, but finding out what you want comes directly from your authentic self.
Yep.
You know, because you can want a car, you can want all kinds of things, but what do you want your life to look like?
In your heart.
Right.
What do you really desire for your life? What are your standards? Authenticity is the ultimate confidence, I would say. Mm. Confident and honest people are the strongest and the absolute bravest. You are willing to show your true self in a world of actors and posers. It is very difficult to find someone who is truthful about who they are and okay with being who they are. Their messiness, their light, their brilliance, and their faults. All of it. That's being authentic, being true to yourself. You know what? I don't like chocolate milk. I like strawberry. That's just what I don't do chocolate ice cream. I prefer vanilla.
There you go.
And being okay with that, not wavering when other people come around. And, oh, it's okay, you know.
And going vegan, that was something.
Yeah.
Like, how many times? Like, okay, so before even considering to change your diet, there's an etiquette with your table. Why? Don't look at my plate. Like, okay. It's rude to watch me eat. I'm not watching you eat.
I always watch people eat.
Like, it was never an issue, and then you went vegan, and everyone's like, why'd you order that? Oh, where's the meat? And there's like all this judgment on your plate.
Oh my gosh, isn't it something?
And I'm like, what are you doing? Right? Just eat your food.
Why are you worried about what I'm eating? Yeah. I didn't prepare your food, friend. You have your steak, you have your chicken on that plate. What are you doing? Why are you concerned?
Right.
Oh, man.
Right. So making a decision for yourself, and then all of a sudden it's a spotlight if it's like immediately contradictory to the culture of your surroundings.
Yeah. What are some other challenges you face in embracing your authentic self besides, you know, making a food choice, a dietary choice? And I've talked about this before, of people doing this judging and maybe now feeling bad because they're having the dairy or the meat. You didn't even ask me if I had a health concern.
Right.
You didn't even ask if I'm lactose intolerant or...
The moment you stop eating meat, you're no longer a man.
Oh.
How many times I've heard, like, I eat meat because I'm tough or whatever. It's like, you know, they say some gruesome stuff too that I'll leave off.
Eating meat shows strength.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you're not a man if you don't eat. Like, that's legit. That's sometimes they'll just straight up say that. Oh, you girl.
Well, there we go. Some traditional notions of a man has to have a good steak.
Where's your steak, boy?
Yeah. Hey, wow, you know, that's the reality for some people. Man. So judgment for embracing the authentic self.
Yeah, I mean, and then like making messes, like I said earlier, like you know, the Christians, you know, the uber Christians that were in my life, no cussing, prim and proper, you know, this is how a Christian is supposed to look, right? And then I'm going through my experiences and everything like this, and God has given me these grace things where I'm able to forgive myself. I'm like able to not hold myself up to such a high standard that someone else gave me, which is effectively shutting down all these different parts of myself, right? Anyways, I was getting more free with cussing and everything like that. And then, of course, the Christians in my life didn't like that. So just having certain levels of freedoms, being able to just experience, I don't even know really other than just letting God let you be what you are in that moment. This whole concept of come to me as you are.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So when you this idea of I have to come to God as I am, and it was a concept entirely lost on me growing up. Because every single time I went to go to the throne room, quote unquote, mm-hmm. and actually go talk to Pops, thankfully that was never a problem for me. I never had any qualms about imagining myself to go do that. Mm-hmm. But I always was very uncertain about what I was supposed to do, look like, act like when I went to the prayer room to go talk to Pops. I had to be prim and proper when I prayed, and it didn't feel authentic at all.
So, and back into vulnerability, it's the beginning of authenticity. I think being open enough to receive new information, or being open enough to say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing.
Or just a primal prayer. Let me put it that way. A primal prayer. Mm-hmm. Where you're going through something in life that is pushing you, that has pushed you mm-hmm. to your very core, to the very edges of yourself, where you have almost zero self-control, and your prayer is a scream to Pops. Mm-hmm. There's no prim and proper there.
Yeah,
this is
just crying out.
This is I'm not. There's no act here. Mm-hmm. This is the entirety of the mess that I am right now, and it's coming out in all its ugly form. Wow. Right. Mm-hmm. And then that came out too in times where I was actually angry with him, and me and bro were talking at this one point. I was like, look, if anybody's gonna handle my anger towards you, Pops, it has to be you. Like, I need you to handle it, because I don't know how to handle this situation. I don't understand why you let me go through this. So I need your guidance.
Yeah, surrendering.
And you just need to know that I'm mad at you for even letting me go through this, because I don't understand why you let me go through it.
Wow. And that's raw. That's being raw. I was just going back and looking at King Solomon last week. I was doing another show, and I was mentioning what he asked for. And all this time, I think the heading in the Bible says King Solomon asked for wisdom. The title right before the verse starts in 1 Kings there. And when you actually broke it down, he said, I am just a child. You have a great and mighty people. I don't know what I'm doing. So, give me discernment. The God Almighty of the Creator appears and say, ask me for anything you want. Anything. Now, granted, Solomon has wives. He's rich. David has given him the kingdom. He got everything he wants. He could have asked for more. Mm-hmm. And he said, give me discernment to be a good leader, to know right from wrong. Who am I to guide your people? I thought that was so powerful. And just a few verses before it, he didn't marry Pharaoh's daughter. Mm-hmm. First of all, he's not supposed to be marrying foreign women. So he's living in all kind of sin, like low-key. I'm like, did we just overlook that part? Like, the chapter opens up, and he married Pharaoh's daughter to make an alliance. And then he is still...
It wasn't even for love. It was a political move.
Political moves. However, God appears to him and says, what do you want?
Right.
Anything.
Right. Well, that too, and like his father, King David, right? A man after God's own heart. Mm-hmm. And all the philandering and all that stuff that King David was doing.
Solomon is Bathsheba's son. You stole the woman.
And he's a man after God's own heart.
And this is the child that is building God's house. So redemption and whatever God is choosing to do with his path, that's
right.
And whomever is open to him.
Right.
And now I've kind of lost my train of thought, but we were talking about authenticity and surrendering and asking for the help.
Right.
And saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
That is okay. That is the most vulnerable you can be, and it's so necessary. And I feel if more people cried out for help or just said, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, you wouldn't lead more people astray. You wouldn't be bringing the father's curse down to the next generation of kids. Mm-hmm. If you just looked in the mirror and like, you know what? Nobody taught me how to be a good mom. Nobody taught me how to be a good dad.
Right. Right.
Why don't I read some books? Why don't I get down and pray or do some meditation or just seek some wisdom to be a better human being so that I could be a better father or whatever it is. You know?
Right. Absolutely.
Awesome. Authenticity. So powerful. Mm-hmm. And then embracing our authentic selves and whatever, our messiness.
I mean, even if it's not our actual true authentic self, like you're going, the journey to your authentic self.
Yes.
Right?
You do not just arrive there overnight. And it transitions, it changes over time as circumstances changes, as our, life situations.
Right.
And encounters.
And the thing is like every doorway that he opened up to me forgiving myself for whatever mess I was causing in the moment, whether it was like I said earlier, like a perceived mess or an actual mess. You know, whenever I'm cussing and stuff like that, which I do all the time. Mm-hmm. Right? That freedom, however temporary it may be, right now, has allowed me. And my family does not understand this in any way, shape, or form, and that's okay. But when being raised by the prim and proper, like this is what you're supposed to look like, and then the immediate failure that I felt like because I was not that, right? Now I have to, lie?
You gotta hide it.
Right? I have to hide the mess that I feel like I am. And I constantly didn't feel like I measured up. And I think that's what led me into, I asked Jesus into my heart, I don't know, 1,000,000 times as a kid. I was never secure that I was actually saved.
And he was there.
Right? So I believe that being allowed to have that freedom to let go, just relax. I'm going to forgive you for this. Right? Chill out. You know, eventually cool your tongue. Right now, relax, because right now we have to get you to open up a few doors. If you're relaxed on that, we're going to be able to go to this thing right here that's more important. This door right here that's going to lead you to your authentic, deeper into your actual self, more of yourself and understanding everything like that, because if you let go of whatever judgment you had on yourself before. Even if it is actually wrong, right? You've let go of that, so now you can go into this thing that's of more immediate precedence. God wants you to take care of this first, whatever his hierarchy is of wisdom, precepts, all that.
Okay. So, what advice, and we've said a lot of things, what specific piece of advice would you give to men who are struggling to be true to themselves? If I could do this one specific thing.
You can look in the mirror. Even there was a time where I didn't even have a mirror, so I had to kind of look at myself in my mind's eye, whatever, and be honest with yourself about how you feel. And try to be put as much words to it as you can to understand what it is you're actually feeling.
Do you think that people have trouble just looking in the mirror?
I do.
Go in the restroom or in your bedroom, find the mirror on the wall, the standing mirror, and just stare at yourself in the eyes, not your nose, your ears, your hair.
I couldn't do it. Sometimes I can't. Just looking at myself. Mm-hmm. It's just weird. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Some people just, and I've met a lot of people, and it's not an uncommon thing where I hear people be like, I can't even look at myself in the mirror. I can't do it.
What does that mean? What do you think that indicates about how we're feeling about myself? Because I've had similar issues in the past, or different days. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh my goodness.
I think it absolutely directly correlates to how much you're judging yourself for what you have done or think you've done.
Absolutely.
Both and. So the amount of forgiveness and vulnerability and everything that you're going to feel by looking at yourself in the mirror and actually evaluating yourself.
That's the starting point. Go look at yourself in the mirror. Not the metaphorical mirror, the physical glass mirror.
Yep. Like, I mean, even if it's your phone and you got it turned on, like driving in the truck, when I was on the road driving my semi-truck, the only mirror that I had was in the public restroom for a couple seconds, just brushing my teeth or whatever. And that's it. That's the only mirror I had. And there's no privacy there. There's men in and out of the restroom the whole time. Mm-hmm. Right? So even if you can like turn your phone camera where you're actually looking at yourself, you know, and then
in a quiet space.
In a quiet space when you're by yourself, you know, if you know some people go through some circumstances like I said, I was in the truck or whatever. If whatever way that you can sit there and look at yourself, or even just think about yourself, if that's all you got, and watch yourself from a third person perspective and understand what is motivating you.
Oh, I like that. What's motivating you?
It could be fear, it could be goals, it could be good or bad, but you need to figure it out.
Absolutely. That's like the perfect exercise for anybody, male or female. How can we create a more supportive environment for men to embrace emotional intelligence and vulnerability? What's emotional intelligence? I would say emotional intelligence is just understanding the emotions in general. Right. Understanding that you have them, and then being able to identify them.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people, we feel things and we can't define that. That is frustration. That is loneliness. Mm-hmm. That is abandonment. Mm-hmm. That is grief.
Right.
You just feel.
Right.
And and you don't know how to express it or what's going on. You just know you want to eat.
Right.
You just know you want to just get out and go hang out, or you just want to watch TV and recluse. Mm-hmm. And you don't know, oh, I'm in grief about something. Oh, I'm feeling abandoned. So emotional intelligence, I would say, is just being aware and being able to identify the different type of emotions.
Building that vocabulary. Because, yes, I think it's actually the first problem, I would say. Or it's one of the first problems, is that not being able to identify what you're feeling.
Yeah, it would have to be. They'd have to be able to be given time and give themselves time to feel feel their emotions, and then that the door into discerning those emotions so that they can actually describe them.
I agree. I think sometimes people, and I would say very frequently, we don't want to feel. We don't want to stop and feel that ache. If it's anything that's like joy or dopamine hits, we don't want to feel those achy emotions. Mm-hmm. And take the time to stop and think about them. And I see people bury themselves in busyness or into substances or abusing food or shopping, whatever it is.
Anything, music.
To music to just dull everything out. So I think that's a very a great piece of advice. Just allow yourself to feel.
Like what addiction do you have, and even to that, of course to that level, what addiction do you have that you're like, do you actually think you're not distracting yourself from something? Like being able to determine, wait, this isn't actually normal behavior. There's something off about me. Even being able to start there, and then being like, okay.
So now you're getting back into acceptance.
Right,
and
acceptance.
You're specifically talking about addiction, because if I'm into whatever the habit is, it usually is taking me out of my mind or into a different thought space where I'm involved with that particular thing, whatever the addiction is. And I don't have to be over here in the problem or the concerns and thoughts that are making me feel inside of my body.
Being okay with feeling bad. Like, this hurts. I recognize that this hurts. I don't like that it hurts, but it is true that it hurts.
Acceptance.
Right?
That something is making me very uncomfortable.
Right. And then being like, okay, removing, because we have this, there's acceptance, and then there's the ability to, I'll say, sidestep the emotional knee jerk, right? The immediate, let me turn some music on. I can't do this right now. Right. Or whatever your drug of choice is, music or whatever the vice is. Let me turn this on right now. I can't think about this. A friend of mine, a truck driver, a number of people in my life very explicitly say, I cannot have silence. I will not allow, I don't want to go run.
I've heard people say that.
Yeah. I don't want to go run because it makes me think too much. So it's an acceptance that you're feeling, and then it's an acceptance that you have to go through this process. I think there's two different acceptances you have to go through. Like, yes, I'm feeling, and it's okay, so that I can actually interpret it.
And how do you think that people got there? How do we get there to, like, we absolutely don't want to feel these feelings?
Well, the first thing is the complete and utter apprehension that specifically men for sure have. We're not allowed to be vulnerable with each other enough to say what we actually feel, right? There's so many stigmas against men doing that. You're
don't get to
just
vocalize.
feminine. You're being a girl, and then or like, dude, this is man time right now. You don't need to be doing all that, right? It's it's instantly stigmatized when a dude is in like complete need, right?
Okay.
So the man who is in need, and there are many, have to be given that space, and then he has to actually believe enough to trust that he's in that space. Of vulnerability to be able to actually share.
Back to having these safe spaces. They're so important, whether it's at home, first with yourself, then with your loved ones and friends.
And we can talk about today's society too, with how safe spaces are actually stigmatized even further in today's day, because the only people who quote unquote need safe spaces are dudes who dress in dresses and all the stuff that's going on today with people being confused about their own gender and all this stuff. Those are the type of people who need safe spaces. Not everybody. Right?
Wow, okay, I can see that.
There's many times
an emphasis on community, LGBTQI community, and not emphasizing it for everybody.
Right. No, it's now a joke. Like when I was in the maintenance shop, working on cars. What do you need, a safe space? Dude, get back to work.
Oh my.
Yeah. So it's not allowed. So it needs to be allowed. And you need to be told that just because you're in this safe space where you are sharing your feelings, it doesn't make you like this person who is pretty far down the trail. We can all see this person needs help over yonder. You know, this gentleman who wants to wear a dress, or this woman who wants to wear pants, or whatever the case may be, they need help too, but it's okay to have a safe space.
For everybody. And it's not a feminine thing.
It's a human thing.
It's a human thing.
You have to be given time
to process.
You know? Yeah. Like, and you know, me and Tony will be in the gym and I was actually talking to my dad about this too, because he's been trying to hit the gym, right? He had his little health scare and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And he's trying to change his diet. And he goes, so what kind of exercises should I do and all this kind of stuff? I was like, well, as long as you're putting, like, you need to challenge yourself. You're there to challenge yourself. And I was like, when I'm in there, I'm talking to my deeper self. It's not just to lift the weights. It's to have a conversation with a part of me that wants to scream. That's what I'm there for.
Okay. I like that.
Everyone wants to lift the weights and look pretty. I'm there to discuss something with parts of myself that people don't want to see.
So that's your outlet space.
Right. And at the same time, I'm trying to keep cool and just look like I'm just about my business, just lifting the weights. You know, I'm in there, I'm talking to this beast who wants to, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm on the edge and I'm wrestling with this inner demon, inner beast, whatever you want to call it, this darkness or this thing that I don't understand, right? And this thing doesn't understand me, this monster that was created from this feeling of abandonment, which I do have, right? This monster that was created from this feeling of lack, of not being nurtured, right? All this stuff that lurks in us, it needs to have the conversation. Otherwise, it's just going to explode. It's all like the Hulk. Go to the Hulk.
Yes.
It's that. Like, that's what it is. You either have a conversation with the Hulk or he hulks out.
That's it. Once he hulks out, it's gone.
Right.
Where's Black Widow? Come on.
Right. Right. Yep, sun's getting real low.
So what's one thing you wish more people understood about strength and masculinity today?
That, I don't want to say that vulnerability is involved, but, because I don't want to kick that dead horse, but,
that's the truth of the matter.
That is
this openness that needs to happen.
Right. Because I think, and we touched on this a little bit before we started, was that the masculinity is defined as toxic in today's culture.
Any type of masculinity, it's toxic.
Masculinity is toxic in today's.
We don't want it.
Right.
Oh wow, that is so sad.
Right, because, and I think that's a complete. There's a complete lack of nuance in understanding like what masculinity is, and vulnerability is at least like it. Okay, so that you can either be a man who can be a good father or a man who's a bad father. Both of those men can't be toxic. Right? So if you can't first get to that point, that there are actually good men and good fathers specifically, then that's your first step, is being able to accept that there are good fathers.
No more man hating. All the men are not dogs or toxic. There are good men. Right.
And then, and this is, I'm going to say this real quick too, and I don't want to take a huge rabbit trail, but being in the ex-military and then living overseas the way I did when we were in Abu Dhabi and everything like that, when I came back to the States, the friends that I made overseas and everything, not just, Brell and people from Africa and stuff like that, but the Muslim people that we made friends with over there. I came back to the States, and my grandma and people like this are like, bomb them all.
Oh, my.
And I'm like, Grandma, I lived there for 3 years. She goes, oh, I mean, I know you have your friends, but still, they should all die.
Oh,
I was
my.
like,
That's intense.
I was like, gee, well...
That is very intense and very insensitive.
I'm like... I was just stunned, right?
Everybody's a terrorist.
Everybody.
Yikes.
Right.
Not true.
That's the go-to. I'm like, so...
Farthest thing from the truth.
Right.
We ain't gonna get into that.
Right. So, being able, first, like what you said, to say that not all men, right? But you need to actually believe that, is what I was trying to get at. Like, it can't just be lip service. Like, you have to, like, okay, yes, there are good fathers. And if there's good fathers, that means there are good men. And the reason why that's significant is because these fathers are raising children, i.e., creating our future.
That is correct.
Right? So, yes, good man is good, but good man raising children is affecting our future.
Okay, and then what I getting from that, we need to hope that there are some good men.
Right.
Because the women still want to get married.
Right.
The women still want to raise families.
Right.
And guess what you need?
Right.
You
Right.
still want to be kept. You want somebody to take you shopping and buy your house and prop you up. Guess what you need?
Right.
A good man. Huh? Yeah, or y'all are going to be sharing them. The few that are there. And that's not to say good of character. Because, I'm specifically talking finances.
Mm-hmm.
We need a good gene pool and good character.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that even wants to be with you. So we should even hope
Right.
that there are good men.
Right.
And good standing with their masculinity.
Right.
And able to share that.
So, one thing I wish people understood is that not all masculinity is toxic. Like, if you, I guess it's another introspection. If you think that an entire group of people is bad, you have to look in the mirror. Like, why do you think literal billions of people are all bad?
What part do I play in this society? What part do I play in this interaction with this so-called toxic masculinity, or a masculinity that I don't like? Am I at all contributing to this thing that we calling toxic masculinity? And I would say the feminine will remove itself. I don't know why the masculinity is toxic at all. I don't know how I got like that. It was a bad apple that fell from the tree somewhere in Eden. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Well, that's deep. I don't think... No, we would not think to do that. And I'm going to speak on behalf of women. We're not going to think en masse of what part we play or what part we could play. If we think something is so terrible, what part we could play in restructuring it. The woman is so powerful. Yeah, stories, like eons of bringing down nations. She has this power to do.
Right.
Very powerful.
Right.
How could we, if we're saying something so toxic, how could we change it or impact it for the better?
Right.
And for our betterment, because we
Right.
still want the children, the homes, and the thriving society.
Right.
How can we uplift our men? Wow. Man. So, and I think the question I posed, and go back for the listeners, is if you could wish more people understood something about strength and masculinity today, what would it be? My comments about that is that it's both physical and mental, and we've only talked about the mental attributes today, and then how they are expressed out in our character, and that your character and beliefs shape your masculinity. What you feel shapes your masculinity. What resources or advice would you recommend for listeners who are looking to redefine their own understanding of strength? Advice, resources, and when I say resources, anything you listen to, anything you're reading.
There's a lot. Well, I mean, even if, like, I do suggest reading. I'm trying to get back into that. And actually, Thomas Aquinas, I got one of his books I just picked up. There's a lot on stoicism, things like that. I need to get more back into reading it again, but there is a lot on YouTube for sure of motivational speeches and people who have been through some rough things and they pulled themselves out of the trenches. And
listening to other people's stories or just empowerment speakers does a lot.
Right.
It helps keep you in a mindset. It's at least a positive posit for the day. You're going through the whole day. You may have an argument. You've been working all day. Just spending 15 minutes on a video, because it takes a lot for us to read today. For those of us who are not avid readers.
Right.
Put a video on, man. The commute or getting dressed in the morning, whatever it is, when you find that time, and everybody's got earbuds in anyway, pop the earbud in, and I would say listen to a podcast, listen to a YouTube video, and that could do a heck of a lot. I think
this too. This just popped into my mind. I think Pops has reminding me of this. Is when we're redefining our own understanding of strength. I think the initial definition of strength is the immediate belief of how much you can deal with and or lift, whether you're in a sport or if you're in an emotional situation. I would add to that from personal experience. This was a pretty profound thing that happened with me. Like when I went through an intense depression, where I was just done.
Yeah.
I was very ready and very okay with just ending. And I was just laying on the mattress on my bed. And Pops told me to get up.
Yeah.
And I think I've told you about this before. But I'm bringing it up because he told me to get up, and I just did not want to. There was zero motivation. Not only did I not feel strong by any means, I didn't even want it. But he told me to get up anyways, and he kept telling me. So the reason I bring that up is because the physical act of me getting up, I'll describe as me like rolling off the mattress onto the floor so that I could get my arms underneath me just to get myself to push myself up off the floor.
Wow.
So strength, I think, also needs to include the what do you say? Because I had nothing to go off of except just do it.
Just roll. You're in an uncomfortable position. Get in a more uncomfortable position on your belly, on your face, where you literally have to push yourself up.
And it was a strength. It redefined strength because pulling willpower into a nothing space, right? There's like, I'm motivated because, no, that's not there. The reason I'm doing this for is because, no, that's not there. There's nothing there.
Energy is never lost.
Right, right. So getting up.
I'm the God before.
Right.
Anything. So you heard a voice. Your body activated into a roll.
And
to start the push to get up.
And maybe just a little bit of the voice and everything but it just said you need to get up now.
No, right now.
So
Not one more second.
the lesson that taught me is like, and this is many people say this, is that, and there's a connection here, is that getting to the gym is the hard part.
Absolutely.
Right?
I can testify to that.
Right? So if you can synonymize the gym or the sport activity or the reading activity, whatever your activity is,
Get there.
just get there.
Get the book in your hand. Sit down in the quiet space.
Right.
Get there.
And that, I think that nuance needs to be added to the definition of strength. Start. Even if you don't know why or how.
I'm in the gym. My form is not perfect.
I'm in here making a fool out of myself.
I'm going to run these 10 minutes. It's 20 minutes. I'm going to walk for 10. I'm going to jog for 20.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Maybe I'll do 11 minutes of jogging, then 12 minutes. My stamina is picking up. You know, I've been in the gym over a month now.
Mm-hmm.
Stamina has picked up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not lifting weights consistently, but I'm there at the gym, and I've taken too many days off, this week. However,
Yeah.
getting there and showing up, and now not wanting to go more than one day without going. Mm-hmm. I didn't go on Monday, I gotta go on Tuesday. I cannot let 2 days go by where I'm not showing up anymore. Yeah. So this is something new from not showing up for months on end and still paying the fee.
Right.
But as you said, the strength in showing up. Try.
I mean, if that's not an indication of the mental being the first source of strength, I don't know what is. Like, if the need, like the difficulty of getting to the gym being the hardest part means that strength has to start there.
In the thoughts,
in the willingness, in the, like, I have perfect faith, right? I'm even messy. I have faith, just a form of faith that tells me that I should trudge through this feeling to get to this place and do this thing.
Absolutely. Amen.
Yep. Amen.
I think perfect. Thank you, Brother Nomad. That was excellent. Redefining strength. What it means to Brother Nomad, being shared with you all. Hope that was beneficial. Please comment down below. Share your thoughts. Reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Go forth and be well. Peace.